Hey friends, welcome into TexAgs Live, presented by Specs, and they got a good one for you. Specs' famous pecan pie with Crown Royal whiskey is back. So are the savings during the Thanksgiving sale at Specs, where the fun starts here. All right, we're in the Rollo Insurance Studio. I was going to go Nick, but I'm going to go Justin. Justin, favorite part of the show?
It has to be Jordan Pugh today. I think he not only re-engaged people's interest, knowing that we shouldn't get too high during this time period, coming off a bye, coming off 8 straight wins. But I just love it. It was just motivational. He's talking about paying his privilege, used last year's experiences to fuel this year's success. So I thought that was great.
Panda's privilege. Look at you. I like that. Way to capture things. Nick Savage, tell us about Panda's privilege.
Yeah, you got me there. That was an intern moment. I don't know where to go with that. But anyways, since I know your next question, my favorite part of the show is Josh Pate. Definitely not Luke Evangelist.
Why?
Just because, he gave us a stark warning about what's coming this weekend. Might not be easy, but could be hard. Kind of turning into a Trump impression. I don't know why.
Hey, tell the people what Panda's privilege is.
Panda's privilege. Did I say panda?
It sounded like Panda's privilege.
Panda's privilege as well, but definitely the pain part.
Because I Googled it. I was like, Panda's privilege is not a formal term. It's sometimes used to describe unique benefits and special treatment of giant pandas. So there you go. What else is on the rewind, Nick? Save us.
OB, Luke, Josh Pate, Adam Spencer.
Hey, he's a Mizzou guy. That and more. Check it.
Would you think for that offensive line, is it a greater asset, their experience, or their physicality?
Oh, I'll take physicality over experience all the time. You're experienced, but I don't think I'm going to play you at right tackle this week because I don't think you have the physicality that we need. And so I think physicality wins out.
Shoot, man, I grew up, my middle name was Physical.
That was your middle name?
Yeah, Olin Physical.
Like Olivia Newton-John?
I said, let's get physical.
Yeah.
Let me hear your body talk.
I hope we hear that song coming up next. Riley's got a cue.
Riley's on top of it, no doubt about it.
But, he gives really good answers.
And I'm almost to that weight that you would expect me to be on the offensive line,
Stop. Another thing that he said, I asked about peaking at the right time. Yeah. And you know what? The way he phrased it, to me, was the right... I should have phrased the question differently because it isn't about peaking. It's exactly what he says. You'll hear it here in a minute. About a growth mindset, that you're just constantly getting better. It's not about being at your best. Maybe when it's about continuously growing. Here's Coach Elko on peaking at the right time.
It's such a hard thing to gauge. You certainly don't go into the season when you look at, okay, we got to go to South Bend in week 3. We're going to identify week 9 as, when we want to peak. I think you're trying to push this growth mindset in your program that, we've got to come out of the blocks ready to go. No team is their best version in the start of the season. You want to really be a team that grows every single week and really understand that the best teams and the teams that are standing at the end get significantly better as the year goes on. And then hopefully get into this month of November where, everything's at stake and you understand the urgency of that better maybe than we did last year, and you continue to see that growth through the month of November, which then I think leads to people talking about, it looks like they're peaking, but I think it really kind of just step ladders all the way through the season if you do it the right way.
Thoughtful answer. Mm-hmm. I didn't think of it that way, but that's exactly the way it should be.
And yet we have seen countless times teams peak too soon. They play their best football. We've seen it here.
Yeah,
we've seen teams play their best football like in October, and oftentimes, and typically in November they don't play well. And here we are.
I mean, they handled business. They did what they had to do. There were a lot of other teams that struggled last night. I mean, Boise State lost to a team that's not even Division I. Auburn went to overtime with Bethune-Cookman. You never know how a team's going to come out, and A&M historically hasn't really started fast in their season openers, and this game was pretty much over 10 minutes into the game. They were up 30 most of the second half. They handled their business. Their pressure was really frustrating Northwestern State, and I know it's the quality of the opponent that, they're not really going to play a team of this caliber when a game matters deep in the season, but I thought that they could have very easily fallen back into some bad habits or maybe played outside of the system, but every single point scored was either from a free throw, a point in the paint, or from a 3. And to my knowledge, I think the only mid-range shot that was really egregious was one that Zach Clements took in the last 2 minutes of the game. So they played within the system and shot the shots that they needed to. And overall, I thought, their pressure was solid.
Yeah, I think the game was decided in the first 2 minutes. It was 9-3.
Yeah.
And clearly that they were playing an overmatched opponent. Now, they Northwestern State had one guy, guard number 5. That guy could play.
He had 28.
He should be on A&M's team.
Right.
But they had a couple of, I've seen A&M in the past play worse teams than Northwestern State and lose to them. So I don't want to take, completely discount everything. They went out and played well. They could have played better. So
Yeah.
So what was your assessment of Pops?
Well, it's Pop singular.
Pop. Yeah. Isaacs, plural.
Look, he hasn't played in 11 months, and he was 3 for 8. This is the worst you're going to see him play. Like it not only takes him time to get back to basketball shape and basketball rhythm, but he has to get into buckyball shape, and he has to learn how to play within this system and with his teammates. And Bucky was saying it, like they haven't practiced with him, with the entire team. Like,
just assume you're going to get their best game of the year. I've been a fan a long time of betting on teams that have to start their backup quarterback. That doubly applies to starting the backup quarterback out of the bye week, which sounds really weird. If you don't know anything about college football or betting, you listen and say, wait, aren't you supposed to be your weakest after the starting quarterback goes down? Well, if you don't have a capable backup, yes. If you have nothing behind the starter, yes. Oftentimes in college football, with a few exceptions, the gap between number 1 and number 2 is a little bit overblown. And also, I think what more than makes up for that gap is the galvanization that happens in a locker room when the starter goes down. If you've ever been in one, you know what I'm talking about. If you've ever watched enough of college football, you know that when the starter goes down, for any program that has a pride about itself, the collective understanding from a defensive lineman, a safety, a wide receiver, that we got to shoulder a little bit more of the load. When you stack all that on top of each other, sometimes it more than makes up for the gap. David, sometimes they play their best game of the year when the backup quarterback's in. It makes no sense. So you double that when you're coming out of a bye. You got a really sharp offensive staff in Missouri. They went down there and got blanked last year in College Station. I know because I was down there. It was the most boring game we went to all year, which is a very big compliment to Mike Elko and those guys. And so you got the revenge factor, you got the backup quarterback factor, you got 2 weeks to get ready for it. And I think if that didn't wake you up enough, if A&M's struggles on the road historically aren't fresh enough in your mind, not this year so far, but historically, if that's not fresh enough in your mind, if the understanding that this is new territory for A&M, this is sort of rarefied air for them, and you got to go on the road here in November, if that doesn't wake you up, maybe that point spread woke people up when it started circulating, and it was, at last check, under a touchdown. Maybe that woke people up. Watch what Texas struggled to do in Starkville. Georgia's going to Starkville this weekend. That line's around a touchdown. So this league this year, man, the worst are not terrible. The best are not great. And so I'm not saying it's fully like the NFL. It's not quite that parity-driven, but it's a lot more compacted than it normally is. So I'm not saying it should be your worst nightmare to go to Columbia, Missouri. I'm just saying don't overlook it.
For Missouri, one of those big losses was the A&M loss. So just how important is this game because of the way last season went?
Yeah, I mean, even without the quarterback, Prabula got hurt. That's really unfortunate right here. But it's still an important game. You just can't get blown out the way that they did last year. Like last year's game was an ugly mess. The worst game that Mizzou played all year, and just like really halted some momentum that they had after a strong start. So this year, like even if they don't win, even if they, because they're starting a true freshman quarterback in Zollers, they have, some other issues that, Texas A&M comes in undefeated. So playing some of their best football. So it's a tough matchup and true freshman quarterback. So, I'm not expecting them to win, but they just can't get blown out and embarrassed like they did last year down in College Station. That's the most important thing.
So considering the offensive situation and the elephant in the room, both Bubula's done for the year. So you have Zollers coming in. So they lose the mobility, right? They lose that because Bo could run a little bit, but a little bit more of a deeper and more accurate passer of the football is Zollers. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm excited to see what he can do as a passer. I mean, he showed, Pribula was not doing a good job seeing the throws in that like intermediate to deep range. He was good at, Kevin Coleman's been putting up some big numbers this year because he's kind of a possession receiver. The short, a lot of his catches come behind the line of scrimmage and he makes some stuff happen. He works quick slants, stuff like that. So, I'm excited to see what this means for, Josh Manning down the field, Marquise Johnson down the field, some of these deeper routes that can that can develop now under Zollers. I think that he showed a little bit of that when he came on in relief against Vanderbilt, that he could push the ball down the field a little bit better than Bo could. So, he's not going to be the runner. He's not going to be that sort of threat. But if the secondary of A&M has any breakdowns, I think that he's going to be more able to exploit that than Bo was.
All right, Justin, close it out. But you have to use Panda's privilege. And it's got to be somewhere in the middle.
In the middle. Well, if you're watching, you need to like, comment, and subscribe to the TexAgs live YouTube channel because pandas are privileged enough to watch TexAgs, and they should continue to do so. So continue to love on TexAgs every single day.
By the way, China loans or gives pandas to other countries as a diplomatic tool and symbol of friendship. The more you know. See you next time.